Hello, this is Western Kansas Prepper, and today I'm attempting to follow the design of NeverEnuffAmmo and make my own cheapskate Berkey Water Filter, which normally costs about $200, but I'm trying to make it for about, I think he made his for $15. This is going to cost me more like $25 or so, because I didn't get cheap buckets. So first first thing you do need is 2 food grade buckets. These are food grade buckets here. For emergency essentials. They were like way overpriced, so if you can get them at a restaurant or something or fast food, do that. These are way overpriced. Anyway, but I didn't have time or didn't have the inclination to go to the fast food place, so I went ahead and just ponied up the $12 or whatever they cost me. It's important they have lids, and they have lids that seal. These lids seal. It's important that one bucket will stack on top of the other bucket pretty cleanly, which this will. So that's kind of important for your filter to work right. The first thing you need to do is take one of the lids and you're going to cut a hole in the lid about 1 inch or 1 1/4 inches. I cut 1 1/4 inches. This washer is exactly 1 1/4 inches. I measured that. But your hole, when you're done, you're looking at, whoops, see there, I'm right at about 1 1/2 inches with that. So that's about where I wanted to be. 1 1/4 might even be better. So I got your hole. Cut that with this utility knife. Just go slow around the edge. I marked it with a permanent marker first around the edge so that I could get a good circle around my washer, and then I went with that. Next thing that you do, next thing you need, is you need your filters, which I have 2 of them here. These are ordinary sediment filters. You get them at Home Depot or Walmart. This cost me these were $10 I think for 2 of them, so much cheaper than normal Berkey filters and stuff. You can get an expensive reverse osmosis filter if you want to filter out all the cryptosporidia and protozoa and that kind of thing. That costs you about $35, $40. Still a lot cheaper than getting the Berkey filter, so that might be a good option if you want to filter out more stuff. My intention will be to filter things out and then to purify them with this system. So the next thing, to explain is how this setup works. And the top of this, basically what I have is I have a 3/8 threaded rod at the top of this. And it's resting on top of this pyramid of washers, which starts off with a very tight 3/8, I think it's a 1/2 inch washer, and then from there, screw this down a little bit. From there you get another 1 inch washer, then you get another rubber gasket, about 1 1/4 inches. Eventually you work your way up to a 2 inch rubber washer at the bottom, which is nice with these sediment filters because it fits right on top of your rubber filter top, which gives you a good seal. This is going to go at the bottom of your filter. This is to keep anything from coming out of the bottom. You want your water to filter out here. This top is where your water will be going into. The top of this, what you're going to have, you're going to have a washer, you're going to have a castle nut, you're going to have a wing nut. The wing nut's 3/8 because it'll fit your rod. The castle nut is 5/8, so it won't fit the rod, which I'll explain in a second. Start off, take the castle nut, put it on top. Oops, that's not going to work, is it? Except that's not what it is. Sorry, I'm missing one piece here. What I have is I have 2 inch rubber gaskets. I've taken 3 of them, and you need to hollow them out so they have a hole in them about 1 inch, 1 1/4 wide. Taking 3 of those, you're supposed to super glue them together, which I will in a minute. I'm going to take all 3 of those, so I get a good seal again, Those are going to go eventually on top of this. Then that's where my castle nut is going to come in. Oops. First the washer, the castle nut. Then I'm going to put another washer on top of this. I don't think it's exactly how he did it, but pretty close. And then I'm going to lock that down with a wing nut. Okay, so now I've got my top put together with the 3 gaskets glued together, a washer on top, 2 inches, the castle nut on top for the water to go in here. Put a small, NeverEnuff didn't do this, but I put a small gasket here to seal my wing nut, put the wing nut on top, tighten it down pretty good. So now I've got the unit. This is not how exactly it's going to work, because you're going to have a lid in between this. So eventually, what we're going to do is we're going to have this, and I'll just go ahead and show you. No point in putting it off. We're going to have this castle nut washer unit Come on. It's a long threaded rod. Okay, we're going to have this castle nut essentially at the bottom of another bucket. Like so. With a hole cut in the bucket. A smaller hole than the washer. And that's how it's going to lock down there in the bottom of the bucket. Then this lid is going to go underneath where you just cut the hole in the bucket. Like that. Then the washers you super glued together will go between the lid and your hole in the bucket, so you get a good seal. Then the rest of this will be on top of your bucket, like so. So you got your washers up there. You can have your unit down here, again the seal at the bottom, so that all this will go underneath your bucket. And then I'll show you, I'll go ahead and assemble that and I'll show you what it looks like. This bucket already had a little, almost exactly the size hole I wanted, so I'm just going to follow this edge around the bottom of my bucket. Now I've cut a hole in the bottom of the bucket there. My tip fell out there, so right there. Again, this is where the lid will attach to with these 3 gaskets right there. Although I noticed on my bucket, here's, I've got a little bit of a lid on my ring right here, which is not good because I won't get a good seal. So I need to cut that off.